Okay, babes. If you're like me and the only relevancy or association you have of Joey Graceffa is from an almost decade-old series on LD Shadow Lady's channel when he'd occasionally make an appearance because you used to low-key fuck with Crazycraft, and you only ever found out about Tana Mongeau through Shane Dawson's 2018 series on TanaCon, and if you're also like me and have a natural talent of living under a rock, then you might not know about Joey's 2016 series Escape the Night until hearing what Tana Mongeau had to say regarding her experience with filming for the Escape the Night, the movie. Please subscribe. Okay, babes. What even is Escape the Night? It was a murder mystery style original series that Joey Graceffa did with YouTube, and it starred a lot of creators that were popular around its time. This show lasting 4 seasons until ending in 2019. Until Joey got the fundings and the rights to its name, now with his strong intentions to revive it and release a film under its associated ETN name this year. With talk about the revival of Escape the Night, Tana coincidentally speaks on our podcast about filming something for an old friend, but keeps it vague in hopes that she doesn't spoil too much of the project that's still currently under wraps. She states that she doesn't want any hate shared towards anyone, and she even says how she felt guilty associating her experience with this friend.
A while ago, an old friend of mine hit me up to be a part of this project, right? And I'm not going to say who, like in hopes to keep the identity of all of this concealed, but I'm sure people will find out. And what I want to say is, if people find out, if you do find out, don't go send hate, because this isn't anyone that you would know's fault. You know what I mean? Like, I really want to, like, the person who I did this project with and for, like, I love so much. So I feel like even guilty, like associating this like with his name and with his whatever.
The further she got with her details, the easier it was for fans to conclude that she was talking about the movie for Escape the Night. Also on her podcast, she speaks about the uncomfortable conditions she felt while on set, including a crew member that made her feel creeped out and uneasy.
Weird when you're underground in a basement and then men are like, you look so beautiful today, Tana. And they look like a fucking gremlin and you're like, my phone's on SOS.
While other crew members being estimated 30 feet away out of earshot and the cameraman no longer present, this masked actor proceeded to tell Tana, while she's still hanging from the ceiling, mind you, quote unquote, "This is my dream, having you chained up."
So I get dragged into a freezer, okay? A meat freezer. There's like things hanging from like the ceiling, like whole nine.
Never that.
And there's a camera on me getting dragged by this man. And then they're like, okay, your next scene is that you're going to be chained to the ceiling. So now I'm fucking standing there getting chained to the ceiling at 11 a.m. downtown in a gown with a corset in a meat freezer with my phone on SOS and it's 40 degrees. And I'm like, you're lying. And so then the camera guy walks away and now I'm just in this freezer chained to the ceiling with a man in a horror mask, right? And he starts talking to me and he's like, hey, I'm JJ. And I'm all, hi, JJ. I'm Tana. Like literally chained to the ceiling. I'm like, this is fucking kind of creepy. Like now there's no cameras. Like the set, it was huge down there as well. So like the nearest people were like 25, 30 feet away, whatever, right? And this man looks at me, I swear to fucking God, through the mask. I don't know what he looks like. And he looks at me and he says, this is my dream, having you chained up.
And while shooting one of her last scenes, this same man apparently broke her pinky finger as well.
And we're finally shooting this last scene, okay? And I have my hand on another fellow influencer, okay? I have my hand on her shoulder, and now she's about to get taken away as well by one of these horror actors, right? Mm-hmm. And I have my hand on her shoulder, and the same guy, he comes up to grab this other influencer away, and I have my hand on her shoulder, okay? And he's wearing these like big like mitts, like prosthetic. It's not like human hands, you know what I mean? And he slams his fucking hand hard as fuck on her shoulder, and my hand is on her shoulder, and my pinky inverts. My pinky inverts, okay? Mind you, everyone is screaming because like someone's getting taken away. So now I'm like, like at the top of my lungs because he just broke my pinky. The same man who literally assaulted me in a freezer just broke my pinky, and no one even knows I'm in pain because like everyone else, everyone is screaming. Everyone thinks that, bitch, put that on my IMDb, okay?
When Joey was on the Just Trish podcast, Trisha brought up Tana's experience with the filming for the movie, and he responded by avoiding the actual concerns behind what Tana said and takes it as a bad press is still press. It's just going to bring more attention to the project outlook, while also mocking asking Tana about her broken finger by basically saying she was crying over a broken nail, and also saying she couldn't have broken her finger because she went to an event later that evening.
When Tana brought it up on her podcast, I was like, honestly, whatever. Like, she can complain. Like, it's just bringing attention to the project.
Yeah,
so.
pretty sure. Can I ask her about it then here?
Sure. Yeah, she broke her finger.
Oh, really?
No.
I can't wait to hear all of it.
She did not. She was at an event later that night, so she was clearly fine.
Well,
I'm
she
like,
probably could have gone with a broken finger.
no, it was like I don't deny that, like, her fingernail did get, like, bent or whatever, but, like,
Kind of a pathetic response, but just shows he wasn't happy that Tana said something not so positive about his project. Not long after his appearance on the Just Trish podcast follows Tana's guest appearance, and of course the finger incident was brought up. Tana kind of clears up why Joey could have assumed it was just a broken nail, because when she first got injured, she herself also thought it was just her nail and didn't want to make much out of it. She even claims she made jokes about her nail until later on when she noticed the swelling and the pain levels worsen as time went on.
How's your finger? Which I didn't know that lore to it.
My finger's good. Okay.
He's like, well, she went out. And I was like, well, she could go out with a broken finger. It's not like she broke her leg.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, dude. So I love Escape the Night. I always have. I have such a special place in my heart for it. And I will always be so grateful to Joey Graceffa. And he just goes do you get what I'm saying? To grab her over my pinky, and my pinky inverts. And I'm just I'm immediately screaming. And of course, everyone else is screaming. Do you get what I'm saying? Because it's a horror thing.
God.
And I'm actually screaming because my pinky is broken. And at first I think it's my nail. And I'm like, oh. And I'm like, I think it's my nail. So I'm kind of just making broken nail jokes and stuff. And then after a while, I'm like, looks a little wonky and pulsating, 10 out of 10 pain. I'm like, oh my God. And that is Escape the Night and always how they've done it. But again, it's an independent production.
Keep in mind, when Tana was on Trisha's podcast, her segment was filmed the same day as Joey's, so at this time she didn't even hear what he had said to Trisha earlier that day. But this also explains why Trisha brought it up again, but to Tana, because it was still so fresh in her mind. I do want to add, from my own experience as someone who also got their finger injured in a crossfire, that shit is a slow burn. I didn't have to get looked at or eventually braced up until hours later when I started feeling the pain. So again, from experience, I believe Tana when she says she didn't think anything of it until she saw the swelling later on. When Tana finally sees Joey's episode on Just Trish, she makes another response, but again on her own canceled podcast. She starts with making a verbal understanding of her reputation in the past and how others can perceive her as deserving of these horrible treatments, or why they wouldn't believe her just because she's quote-unquote Tana Mongeau.
I think I have been way too nice about how people act toward me when I talk about something bad that has happened to me at the hands of a man. With people being like, well, it's Tana, so she deserved it. You know what I mean? That never bothered me so much for me because I'm healed and I don't need people's validation, but it bothered me so much thinking about my young fans out there who have maybe gone through something traumatic and then they see comments like that and then they're afraid to speak up in their own environments.
Tana says she doesn't really care about all this because she's healed, but finds it frustrating on how Joey can go onto Trisha's podcast and brush off her experience with his project as another complaint to her name and free promotion to his.
It doesn't hurt my feelings personally, but it does kind of make me angry because it's I have just the right to speak out about something as everyone, anyone else does. To still say that I love Escape the Night and I love Joey and it had nothing to do with him. And then Joey Graceffa goes on Just Trish and says, and I quote, when Tana brought it up on her podcast, I was like, honestly, whatever. She can complain. It's bringing attention to the project. Now, I understand that I'm always on a rant and a tangent, but once again, it's infuriating to me.
I'm gonna be honest. I personally have not been front and center with Tana's career, but even being under my little rock, I know enough to say that she has grown as a person and believe her when she says she's looking out for her younger audience, or even bringing up the hypothetical of this situation going completely differently if it had happened to someone whose voice would have been easier to shut out. Yes. She says she's always goes on rants and tangents, and yes, she is a professional yapper, but I don't think I've ever heard her say something that she didn't believe was true. This doesn't necessarily mean everything she says is factual, but it doesn't mean that everything she says is a lie or a complaint for attention just because she is who she is. And I don't see any reason why she'd lie about this. Especially when she first explained the situation, she didn't seem to have any grudge or hate towards him or the project itself. And she even acknowledged on the Just Trish pod how she kind of understands why safety safety might not have been an up and up with the project's priorities because it was considered low budget and independent.
And we're in a basement in downtown
Yeah,
LA.
it's not the budget.
No, and it still was very budge. Like, he spent a lot of money. It's a big space.
Yeah.
It's a huge production crew. I'm not on it at all. I'm
Yeah,
just
yeah.
saying it's
This-
independent and it's different.
The safety felt a little more
Yeah, and then-
questionable.
I do admit that I have the luxury of not obtaining any bias towards either of them, but I personally am on Tana's side and agree with Trisha on her statement of needing Escape the Night to come to an indefinite end.
Escape the Night just needs to end gracefully. Bow out. He's talking about doing a whole movie and selling it and pitching it. I'm like, okay, we crowdfunded this one. It's cute. We love it. But also it's like one episode. I don't know. Just
Joey seemed like he couldn't care less except for the possibility that he might get one or more views added to his current project. For the opportunity to grow and learn, I feel like Joey could take this as a way to speak with Tana off cameras and without the podcast mics, to maybe avoid any bad blood with the movie and turn it into something that isn't just people watching with the intent of skipping to the meat freezer scene or finding where she broke her finger to see if they can point out what screams are real or fake. However, right now, him showing essentially no compassion or emotion towards even the slightest injury on a project he is responsible for makes me feel like he shouldn't have that responsibility in the first place if he can't treat his cast members with the respect or take some form of acknowledgement or accountability. Anyways, sorry the videos have slowed down. I had my birthday recently and I didn't want to post anything, but because you still forgot to wish me a happy birthday, I'll forgive you if you give me a gift of subscribing. Okay, bye!